Today, we're diving into a product that makes a pretty huge promise. We're not just talking about a temporary mental boost, but a whole system for long-term brain optimization. It's called NZT-14, and according to the people behind it, it's designed to change the way we think. So let's break down what that really means.
Let's kick things off with a question that probably hits home for a lot of you. Are you ever stuck in that cycle? You know the one where you have these incredible peaks of focus and productivity, but then you just crash into a valley of complete burnout? It's a classic story, especially for anyone in a high-performance field.
And that right there is what the source material calls the high performer's dilemma. It's that constant boom and bust, often fueled by things like coffee or energy drinks. You get a short, frantic burst of energy, and then the inevitable crash. The whole problem that NZT-14 claims to solve is breaking free from that exact cycle.
This comparison really gets to the heart of it. On one side, you've got your typical stimulants. You get that 2 to 3 hour rush, aggressive stimulation, and then you fall right into that exhaustion pit. But NZT-14 is positioned as the total opposite, a steady, stable curve with no crazy peaks and, more importantly, no crash. And it supposedly does this through something called neuronal energy optimization.
So, based on its own documentation, this thing is being sold as a completely different kind of fuel for your brain. It's not about forcing your mind into a sprint. It's about fundamentally rebuilding the engine so it can run smoothly for the long haul.
And here's the product itself. According to the source, this was developed over 3 years for a really specific audience. People like entrepreneurs, developers, doctors, folks who just can't afford to have an off day. And they don't just call it a pill, they use this very specific term, a neurometabolic cognitive module. Okay, so what in the world does neurometabolic system even mean? Well, according to them, it's a system that's not about aggressive stimulation. Instead, it's designed to optimize your brain's core functions, the energy in your neurons, how well your neurotransmitters work, and your brain's ability to forge new connections, which is neuroplasticity. The goal isn't a jolt of energy, but to get you back to your best version of thinking.
So how does it claim to pull all this off? The formula is reportedly built on 4 key pillars. Let's walk through each one of them.
So here's the roadmap. The formula is designed to hit 4 targets. First, giving you access to sustained, long energy. Second, getting your neurotransmitter levels in that sweet spot for focus. Third, actually encouraging the growth of new neural connections for long-term benefits. And finally, making sure you stay emotionally stable when you're under pressure.
Pillar 1 is all about long energy. This targets the powerhouses of your cells, the mitochondria. The claim is that it uses organic molecules to help your neurons crank out more energy, especially when you're stressed, so you can work for longer without that feeling of your brain just overheating.
This quote really nails the feeling they're describing. The idea is that instead of your head feeling foggy or like it's swimming, tasks just seem clearer. You can get into that flow state and actually stay there for a long time without constantly fighting off mental resistance.
Pillar 2 shifts from raw energy to communication. This part focuses on providing the building blocks for key neurotransmitters, specifically dopamine and acetylcholine. These are absolutely crucial for how fast you process information, connect different ideas, and just stay interested in what you're doing. And the promised result of getting those neurotransmitter levels right is pretty significant. The claim is that you'll be able to wrap your head around complex problems way faster, solutions will just seem to pop into your head more easily, and you'll be able to hold your focus for 2 or 3 times longer than usual.
Now, pillar 3 is where the long-term vision really kicks in, neuroplastic growth. The source says it uses different plant and mushroom extracts that are linked to things like NGF, nerve growth factor, and BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. In simple terms, these are proteins that help your brain grow and strengthen its connections.
This quote really says it all, doesn't it? The product is being framed not as some temporary crutch, but as a real investment. The whole idea is that you're not just performing better today, you're actively building a stronger, more resilient brain for the future.
And finally, pillar 4. This one is all about keeping your cool when the pressure is on. This component uses amino acids and minerals that are supposed to help your brain function smoothly even when you're staring down a tight deadline or dealing with a high-stress situation. So, the real-world benefit here is all about emotional regulation. It's described as quieting down that internal noise, the anxiety, the distractions. You feel less irritable and more in control of your focus and your workflow.
Okay, so that's the how. But what about the actual results? What are you supposed to feel over time?
The product info lays out a pretty specific timeline of what to expect.
So the timeline starts within just a few hours. They say you'll feel a sense of clarity, but without that harsh, jittery kick of a typical stimulant. Then, fast forward 2 to 4 weeks, and you should notice more stable focus and less distractibility. And then over the long haul, 3 to 6 months, the goal is to reach a whole new baseline of cognitive endurance, where you learn faster and you don't hit that mental wall at the end of the day.
And if you put it all together, the full list of promised benefits from a complete course is pretty extensive. We're talking sustained concentration, faster thinking, less fatigue, and even this interesting phrase they use, a feeling of structural thinking, where your thoughts feel more organized instead of just chaotic. All right, let's get down to the brass tacks, the practical details, and the core philosophy that this whole product is built on, at least according to the source material.
The price listed in the document is $750. Now that's for a course that lasts 150 days, which works out to about 5 months worth of supply.
The instructions seem pretty straightforward. The bottle has 300 capsules, which covers that 150-day course. You take 2 capsules in the morning after you've eaten. They do suggest an adjusted dose for more sensitive people, and they make it clear that the best effect comes from continuous, long-term use, followed by a 4 to 6 week break between courses. This final quote really sums up how this product is positioned. It's not being marketed as a quick fix or some kind of cheat code. It's presented as a tool for people who are thinking long-term, people who want to win by fundamentally improving how their brain works, not just by temporarily juicing it.
And that brings us to the end of our breakdown. The claims are ambitious, for sure. It reframes cognitive enhancement not as a quick fix, but as a systematic, long-term investment in our own biology. And it leaves us with a pretty provocative question. Is this kind of approach, optimizing the brain rather than just stimulating it, the future of performance? That's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining us.